Hey there, Fiber Junkies! Welcome back to the Color Cauldron. This is episode 3, and today we're going to show you a short little demonstration of how to knit backwards. I hate long intros on how-to videos, so we're just going to jump right to it, and then we'll come back and chat about some uses for it and a couple other things I have to show you before we head out. Okay, so we're going to talk about knit backwards today. I'm just going to show you what it looks like, and then we will explain it in a little bit more detail. So I'm going to put my needle through, oops, wrap it over, slip it off, through, over, off, through, over, off. And you can see those look just like the knit stitches below them that I knit the normal way. Okay? So, how did I actually do that, and how can you do it? So I am a right-handed knitter, as you probably noticed by now. So if you're a left-handed knitter, you may have to change a little bit the way that you hold things or a little bit the order that you do things, but the principles will be the same, and you can teach yourself to do this the same way by watching how I do it. So normally when we knit from our left-hand needle over to the right-hand needle, yes? And then if we're going to do, say, a short row, and they say to turn your work, purl 5 stitches, turn the work, and work back the other way, right? Normally if we got here and we needed to do a short row, we'd have to turn our work all the way around, then we'd have to purl back this way, then we'd have to turn it all the way around. And if you're only doing anywhere from 3 to 8 stitches or so, it's not really worth it to turn your work around, at least not in my opinion. It seems like it takes a lot of time, it's clunky. If you're working on a big thing like a sweater like I am, it's a lot of turning things around, and if you're in, traveling in a bus or a plane or something, it's a lot of tight space moving. So I like to knit backwards. What I do is I take my left-hand needle and I go from the front to the back. Then I wrap the working yarn over the top. Then I find this little window and I pop it off of my right needle. And there's my stitch. So the way that I taught myself to do this was I figured I can just, if I'm knitting one direction, I can just knit back the other direction. It's like I'm purling. So I watched myself when I purled. I turned my work around and I watched where I put my needle. And I said, okay, I take my right-hand needle and I purl. I slip it into the left-hand loop from the back to the front. Then I wrap the working yarn over the top. Then I find this little window and slip it off. So again, when I wrap this one, I noticed, okay, I'm coming from this side to here. And then I'd look at it, I'd turn my work around and look at it from this side and be like, oh, so if I'm knitting back that direction, I'm sorry, I keep moving out of frame. If I'm knitting that direction, I would slide it in from the front to the back, and you can see it's in the same position as when I'm purling. Then I wrapped the yarn over the top and slide it off that little one. I've made the mistake of doing the first couple times of wrapping it from the bottom because I was just reversing all my directions. So I thought, oh, well, if I go over the top on the purl side, I go over the bottom on the knit side, right? And then I'd pull it off, and you can see that twists your stitch right there. So if you're doing a twisted ribbing or something, that might work, but in most knitting, that's not going to work for you. It's going to mess with your stitches and your tension there. So you want to wrap over the top, slide it through the window. Okay, so hopefully that will help you. My tips, again, like I mentioned in just a minute ago, is to turn your work and do the purling in slow motion. Pay attention to every little thing that you're doing. Really make note of every little movement. And if you have to do a movement, like wrapping this, then turn your work back to the other side and look at it and say, oh, see, it's coming over the top there. That's how I do that. Whatever you need to do to make it make sense in your head, that is how it worked for me, and I think that's a really good technique to have. The reason you want to do this, like I mentioned, is short rows, if they're not very long short rows, like in a sock or something. It's also really great for entrelac because you usually have a short little piece of, you're doing the little interwoven strips that make it look like a basket weave. I'll show you an entrelac project when we go back in just a moment after this. And so it's really great for entrelac, it's great for short rows, it's great for bobbles, which is something else that I just did recently that I will show you in a moment as well. I did a bobble hat recently and it had bobbles all over it, and it would have driven me crazy to have to keep turning my work around. So knitting backwards was an excellent way for me to do that. Okay, so let's go back and take a look at those projects. Okay, now that we're back, hopefully you guys found that really helpful, and that should help save you a little bit of time and some frustration on short rows, entrelac, bobbles, etc. I wanted to show you 3 different projects that I used the short row or the knit back backwards technique for. So the first one is an entrelac bag that I made a while ago, probably a year ago. And it's not like the best bag ever, and I didn't do a gauge swatch, so it turned out really big and floppy. So lesson learned, even when it's not a wearable garment, you do need to do a gauge swatch if you care about the outcome and about the size. But you can see the entrelac, if you haven't seen that before, it looks like a basket weave kind of a thing. So you're knitting a swath of stitches, and in this case it was 5 stitches, and I'd knit in this direction, and then you go back and you knit in the other direction. So there's a lot of turning your work back and forth if you don't know how to do the knit back backwards technique. But now that you do, you can do entrelac with pride and with ease and much quicker, because you won't have to turn that back and forth all the time. So that was the first one. The next one is dun, 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 my Hold Sway sweater, which I finished in time. The deadline isn't until next week, which is great because it's not blocked yet. So pardon the kind of frumpy appearance, but it has not had its final blocking and therefore not its final ends woven in either. But it's finished and I love it. It looks kind of like a big hanging shapeless bag when I just hold it up right now, but when I put it on, it looks amazing. It's perfectly just nice and like it's comfy because it's not too fitted, but it fits in through the bust area and then falls in kind of an empire waist tunic length down to this really cool little hem. And the hem part for this pattern uses a lot of short rows. Now most of your short rows are actually around like 3/4 of the sweater, so you don't actually need to do the knit back backwards because that's a lot of stitches to knit back backwards, unless you just like it and you want to practice. But several areas of the sweater you use a very short row to start it, so you maybe are just knitting and then purling back like 3 to 5 stitches and then knitting again and then purling back 10 stitches and then knitting and then purling back 20 or whatever. So in the beginning, when you're just doing that short little bunch of like 4 or 5 stitches, it's really helpful to know the knit back backwards technique, and that'll save you a lot of turning, especially when you're doing a garment like this that's knit in the round and you have a big body to work on and you don't want to sling that whole thing around. The knit back backwards will really help. So I'll show you more photos of this, hopefully in our next video. I'm hoping by then I have it blocked and get some good photos taken because it really does look much better on. It's really, really nice, and it has this really great swingy drape to it, and I love it. So I do feel like if I knit this again, I would knit it on the recommended size 4 needles for the body size. I went up to a size 5 because when I was doing my gauge, which I'm lazy, I didn't do a gauge swatch per se, but I started on the sleeve instead of the body. And so I did the ribbing and then I switched to the size 4 that she recommended, and I knit up for a little ways and then kind of dampened it, laid it out, let it dry, and measured it like I would a gauge swatch. That's a really handy trick I use for sweaters so I don't have to actually knit a gauge swatch. I start on the sleeves and use that. And then I felt like my gauge was really off, like quite a bit off. Over 1 inch off. So I ended up jumping up to the size 5, knit a little bit more, did the same thing, and was like, that's much closer. I'm like barely a teeny tiny fraction of 1 inch off in gauge, so that's close enough. And so I knit the rest of my sweater. Well, this is the tricky bit about gauge swatches and sleeves. That's not the whole story, because then you get a whole big sweater knit in that same fabric, and it's a little heavier, and it's a lot drapier, and there's more fabric, and so that teeny tiny fraction of 1 inch might actually expand to a couple inches. So long story short, it's just the tiniest bit bigger than I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be a bit more fitted through my bust than it is. I like my clothes a little bit more fitted generally, but it's not so much bigger that I'm going to worry about ripping it out and redoing it. It's not so much bigger that I feel embarrassed about it when I wear it. I think it's still really pretty. It's still really flattering, and the best part, it's really comfy. But if I ever did it again with this yarn, I would definitely stick with the size 4 that she recommends in the pattern. And I think I would do a bigger gauge swatch if I was switching yarns to really determine how the drape goes. And I really think it's my yarn choice because I use the Fairy Wing fingering from my shop, which is perfect for this sweater. It's 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon. But because of that 20% silk and just the way that this yarn is very, very drapey, it has a bit of extra weight and drape to it than a normal, like just straight up superwash merino or something. So I think that's why it kind of grew on me once I got the whole body done, because the sleeves really fit perfectly, and the body is almost perfect. It's just that teeny little hint off, and I think it's just because it's a lot of it and it has that extra drape with the silk. So if you're going to knit this in a similar silk yarn or in my yarn from my shop, which I know you'll want to, then I would recommend sticking with the needle size, but probably you'll want to make sure that you do a larger gauge swatch, more like a body, like you would on the body. So maybe instead of the 4 inches, go for the 8-inch swatch. I know it's really, really not fun to do that, but it really does help in the long run. Okay, the last project that I used my knit back backwards for is a hat that I just finished, and I haven't even gotten photos yet for Instagram and Ravelry, so you guys are the first to see it. But I totally love this hat. This is the Orchids and Fairy Lights hat, and I will put a link to that pattern below. I'll have to see if it's on Ravelry. I'm sure it is, everything is, but if it's not, I will put a link to where you can purchase the book from Knit Picks that I got this out of. It is so cute and so fun, and it's just a really great slouchy little hat. I don't know if you can see those bobbles in there, but it is covered in bobbles. It looks kind of like a little tree with these little like berries coming off of it, and the little berries are made with tiny little bobbles. So as you can see, there's a million of them, and if I did not know how to knit back backwards, there would have been all kinds of cussing going on when I had to flip this back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And instead, I was able to breeze through it pretty easily because I used my knit back backwards, and it saved me a world of headaches in all of the switching back and forth. And it made the bobbles actually fun and pretty quick to do, not a bunch of misery. So I highly recommend practicing that until it becomes second nature, because it really will save you a lot of time. Okay, there's one more thing I really want to show you guys, and I hadn't planned on it, but I decided I was going to because I love it. I knit my first hand-spun project recently, and I'm totally in love with it. This project, I have to admit, this is not my hand-spun yarn. I'm still pretty newbie at it, and I haven't had the guts to knit with any of my own hand-spun yet because it's not that great. But my friend Wanda, who owns Silly Sheep Designs on Etsy, and you'll find a link to her shop below, she makes absolutely gorgeous to die for hand-spun, and she also makes the absolutely adorable stitch workers that I'm obsessed with, including the anatomical heart that she made for my Edgar Allan Poe sets this last fall. And if you just saw my knit back backwards video a few minutes ago, if you noticed in there, I had a little stitch marker that looks like a little manatee holding a drop spindle, and she made him too. He's so cute. So this is her hand-spun that she did. I want to say it's the campfire something. I'm sorry, I forgot what it's called, but it's absolutely gorgeous. It's got reds and oranges, a little bit of light blue, some creams and yellows and golds, brown. It's so pretty, like fallish colors, and then it has this amazing gold stellina, which is maybe the best thing about it. I love sparkles. And then I topped it off with this incredibly fun furry pom-pom, and I scoured the internet for the right pom-pom because I hadn't ever used the furry ones, and I kept seeing everybody use them and thought they were so cute. But the first couple places I looked at, I really wasn't impressed with the quality. Going just off of internet photos, of course, but they really didn't look that good. They looked like obviously they're all faux fur, but those ones looked really, really faux fur, and they looked really cheap, and I just kept finding ones I didn't think were good, or I'd find ones that looked pretty good, but they were like really expensive, or they were not that badly priced, but then the shipping was astronomical. So I finally found somebody, after just searching around for hours on Etsy, I found somebody that had this amazing shop, and I forgot to look up her shop name, so I will put a link to it below where you can find these awesome furry pom-poms. And she has them all the way from like $3 up to like $6 or $7. This is one of the bigger sizes that she has, which I think is awesome. I don't think I'd want it any bigger because even this was a little large for this hat. But I just love it. It's beautiful. It looks really nice quality. She had fast shipping and really good prices. And I just really think it's adorable. And you guys have to see it on because it's the cutest thing ever. I love this hat so much. It's so sparkly and pretty. And this pom-pom is just too crazy cute. I wasn't sure I could pull it off. But then after I knit it, I sewed the pom-pom on, and the first time I wore it, I totally got cold feet and took it off before I left the house because I was scared. And then I came home and tried it on again, and I decided I don't care if I look like I'm 4. I love it. So I wore it out and got a lot of compliments. So thank you, Wanda, for the absolutely gorgeous handspun. Thank you for inspiring me to keep working on my handspun. Hopefully I will get even better at it because you have really inspired me to want to make amazing things like this. I can't get over how pretty this yarn is and just really perfectly balanced, really incredible, awesome quality. Wanda is amazing, so go check out her shop. She's one of my favorite sellers to purchase from. Alrighty, so there's just one more thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about. Just kidding, two more things. First of all, I really, really hope you couldn't hear me swallowing my tea when I just took a drink. Just one of my biggest pet peeves when you're watching a video podcast and somebody's drinking their tea or coffee or whatever and they pause in the middle of a sentence or something and they take this big old slurping drink and you can hear because the microphone picks up their swallowing all the way down. I cannot stand that. It is so disgusting. So I tried to drink really quietly, but if you heard me and it was really nasty, please leave a comment and tell me, hey, maybe don't drink tea on the show again, and because I don't want to offend your ears. Was that too loud? I hope that wasn't too loud. I'm not kidding. I really hate that. I'm drinking a green tea from Shang Tea here in Kansas City. So if you're local, go to Crown Center and check them out. They're amazing. They have this really awesome green tea that I love. And I mixed into it a couple different things. So I'm drinking my custom blend tonight. I've been suffering a really bad migraine all day because the weather is like rainy and icy and gross today. And so I came home from work feeling pretty rough, and I'd taken some pills earlier to try and help with the migraine, some headache pills. And for whatever reason, they just did not agree with my stomach today, and I was really feeling nauseated. So I put some mint leaf into my tea to help with the nausea, which is calming me right down. And then I also added some white willow bark, which is a natural painkiller that really helps with headaches. So I'm giving that a try as well. And it's really nice on this cold, cold night. Okay, the last thing I want to share with you guys is nothing at all knitting related. Well, I guess that's not totally true. It could be knitting related. Everything is knitting related with me. But I'm just really excited because I have some news. I am the kind of person who has a hard time taking off time and spending money going on elaborate vacations. Even though I really want to, and I know that memories are worth more than money, it's really hard for me because at the salon I work at, I rent my space. So if I go on vacation for 2 weeks, I still have to pay my rent for those 2 weeks, even if I don't show up to the salon once. Just like you would an apartment or a house, right? You go on vacation for a month, your landlord doesn't stop your rent checks and give you a free month off just because you're not there. You still have to pay for your space, even if you're not using it. So same thing at my salon. So when I go on vacation, it not only costs me to go on vacation, it also costs me rent that I'm not making money at. And plus, there's just always, the hassle of finding someone to watch my cats and take care of my mail and look after my house. And it's just kind of a big stressor for me. And so we haven't been on a vacation in a while. And I think it's been like 3 or 4 years, which I guess isn't that long, but for me, that's kind of a long time. Other than little road trips here and there for the weekend, we haven't really gone anywhere. So we decided we're going on vacation with our really good friends this summer. And I cannot wait because we're going to my #1 destination on my bucket list. Ireland! I'm so excited, you guys. I've always wanted to go here. I have Irish heritage and I just love the culture. I love the music. I love the yarn and the sheep. I love the food and the drinks and everything about it. And I tend to like colder weather, so I'm excited that the climate is, I hear it's pretty mild for how far north it is, but it's not like going to Mexico or something, which I'm thrilled about. So I cannot wait to go. And I just wanted to ask you guys, for those of you guys who either live in or have been to Ireland, where do I need to go? What do I need to do? Obviously, my sister gave me the Rick Steves book, so I'm going to be reading that to get some ideas. But I want to know from you guys, where do you think I should go? What should I make sure not to miss? And yes, of course, I'm going to be looking for yarn and sheep while I'm there. So where do I need to go to hit up and get some great Irish yarn and or spinning fiber while I'm there? If you guys are in Ireland especially, let me know what local awesome attractions that you think I should check out while I'm there. Like, I'm definitely going to hit up Trinity College and some of those things. But I really want to know, besides like all the main things like the Guinness factory and stuff, where else should I go? So that's coming up. Hopefully I will be able to get some video while I'm over there that I can share with you guys. That's my big goal, is to give a little travelogue, like vlog kind of thing while we're on our trip. I'll be taking a little vacation from the shop while we're gone for a couple weeks, but I will still be checking in with some videos that I'm going to try to do of our trip while we're over there. So that's about all I have today, but I wanted to thank you guys for checking in. I really hadn't planned a video other than just doing the knit back backwards technique, and then I decided to add on to it and make it a little longer because, as dorky as this sounds, I realized I missed you guys, and I was just excited to talk to you again and share some of the things I've been working on and talk about my trip and my tea and just, you know, share my life. So thank you guys. If you made it this far in the video, thank you for watching and taking time to listen to me babble about my vacation and my migraines and all the other things going on with me. But I really appreciate you guys checking in, and give me a like, thumbs up. Also subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss a video. I have some really exciting ones coming up, including what was going to be one video has now turned into probably a series on some sock knitting coming up. So sock knitters and sock knitter wannabes, tune in soon. We will start a sock knitting series, and I can't wait to share some little tips, tricks, and just general sock knowledge with you, as well as my opinion on what is the best sock yarn out there. I'll give you a hint, it's Potion Yarns. But besides that, there are some other great companies I'll tell you about as well, and I'll tell you why my sock yarn is one of my very, very favorites and why you should give it a try. Thank you guys for checking in. It is now time to cast off. Love you.